Okay, so thank you everyone for being here today. Thank you for showing up for this community and the world that we live in. May marks the official AAPI Heritage Month. At one point, it was one day, which turned into a week, and now it's a month. I'm so glad folks are collectively taking this moment to celebrate what unceremoniously has been packed into one largely argued acronym, which we will talk about today. Asian American Pacific Islander covers more than 50 ethnic groups, speaking over 100 languages, not even including dialects. We're really talking about half the global population, considering East Asia, South Asia, and Southeast Asia, as well as the Pacific Islands. A Huffington Post article explains that in North America, when most people picture Asians, they automatically think of the fair-skinned, dark-haired look of East Asians without giving it a second thought. Interestingly, in the UK, this is the exact opposite. But we are all here today to kick off a month-long celebration that focuses on the individual and specific differences of all the countries and heritages involved. At this point, we would like to shout out the awesome work of some of our colleagues are doing to spread awareness and educate us on these topics. At Asian Soph, she runs Mixed Made and Post Fire consistently. Addison Lee from at Mixed Life Media and Farzana Nayani, who was our April 2020 feature, are both doing wonderful work around these issues as well. This is a space for folks from around the world to process our identities and learn or unlearn in community. We host conversations each month on a specific topic, which is different depending on the season, the social calendar, and the issues coming up in our sphere. Each topic revolves around racism, xenophobia, classism, sexism, transphobia, homophobia, imperialism, colonialism, slavery, genocide, and many more, basically anything that ends with ism or phobia. And our mission is to highlight intersectional identities and create space for folks to step into their true self, lead with bravery, and speak their mind.
Thank you so much for that. I would just like to take a quick 30-minute moment of silence for Japanese American families who were interned during World War II, for the AAPI community who has been the victim of violence and discrimination, and all the amazing creatives, politicians, athletes, families who are part of this diaspora. Thinking about the fact that it's also Mental Health Awareness Month, we would like to honor that as well. So we're going to take a 30-second moment of silence for that.
Thank you so much for holding space and honoring the folks who aren't here and the folks who can't be here today. I'm just going to move on with my land acknowledgement for with a general land acknowledgement, and then folks can post specific land acknowledgements for where you're currently located in and for other tribes that need to be named. So a land acknowledgement is a critical step towards working with Native communities to secure meaningful partnerships and inclusion in the stewardship and protection of their cultural resources and homelands. As many of us are settlers, immigrants, or descendants of those forcefully brought to this continent, our institutions were founded upon exclusions and erasures of the indigenous peoples whose land we are located on. We honor and we are grateful for the land that we occupy, and we recognize the ongoing damage of settler colonialism. Land acknowledgement demonstrates a commitment to beginning the processes of working to dismantle the ongoing legacies of colonialism and the pursuit of truth and healing. We're posting in the chat where we got this land acknowledgement from and why we use it. I will take this moment to introduce myself. My name is Lily Alice Walker Stiefel. I'm the CEO of the Mixed Space. I'm so happy to be here with all of you today. I use she, her pronouns. I identify as Black and mixed. I'm a Leo. My people are from Germany, from Ireland, from New Orleans, Honduras. They're Creole. There's some Native mixed in there. New Orleans is a very mixed place, and the larger African diaspora. And I'll hand it over to Ariel to introduce herself.
Thank you, Lily. Hi, everyone. My name is Ariel Basida. I help with PR and social media at the Mixed Space. So my people are from Mexico and Poland. I identify as Latina and mixed. I identify as an artist. I'm going to do a practice of naming my matriarchal lineage. So I'm the daughter of Laura, who is the daughter of Rose, who is the daughter of Mary. I'd like to also honor my grandmother, Esther Bastida, and her mom, Macedonia. I'm a Pisces, and I am in Chicago right now. So Chicago is located on the traditional unceded homelands of the Council of the Three Fires, the Ojibwa, Ottawa, and Potawatomi nations. However, other tribes such as Miami, Ho-Chunk, Menominee, Sac, and Fox also called the area of which I reside on home. I'll pass it to Kat.
Hey everyone, my name is Claire. I also go by Kat, and I will forever be part of the mixed space, whether or not I am on payroll here. I identify as white and Chinese, and my people are from many different parts of China and many different parts of Europe. I am a creative director, videographer, graphic designer. I'm currently in San Francisco, which I recognize is the land of the Ohlone people. And I'm really excited to be here today.
Yay! I just want to take a little moment to say some more names of people who have joined us. So I see you, Donna. I see you, Marie, Allison, Jet, Jonan, Bean Sprout. Hi, Mia. Hi, Marianne. Hi, Vanessa. Hi, Peter. I hope there's no one else I forgot. Ariel, help me out.
Sue. Hi, Sue. Hi, Priya. Elsa. I said hi to Sean, but not Elsa. Hi, Elsa.
Yeah, this is a great time for us to share community guidelines. Before we get into this discussion, also feel free to take yourself off camera or off mute if you want to, and just kind of say hi. We love hearing your voices as we're about to say now. So yeah, engagement is encouraged. I'm actually just going to use the reaction right now to show you, like, you can snap, you can wave your hands, you can do a little dance, you can show us with your face, like, add comments, add questions. Like, this is a very engagement heavy space, and we encourage you to engage in any way that you want to.
So that was number one. Lily just covered number one pretty much. So I'm just going to hop into number two, which is oops, ouch. So saying oops, ouch is a great way for us to check ourselves. If anyone says anything that is harmful or hurtful to another person, saying ouch means that, oh, that hurt, that didn't feel right. And then that gives the opportunity to the other person to say, oops, I'm sorry, let me reevaluate sort of where that comment came from and how I can adjust my behavior.
And our third guideline is a fun one. We say I'm sexy or I'm sassy instead of saying I'm sorry, so that we can break the habit of over apologizing. So for instance, if I say, oh my God, I'm so sorry that, I don't know, I'm not talking fast enough for y'all today, Ariel would say, yo,
sexy, not sorry.
Own that. So I'm sexy or I'm sassy.
Our next one is move in or move out. So are you someone who knows that they take up a lot of space in conversation, or alternatively, do you prefer to listen and you sometimes can't find the right moment to interject? Try to just be mindful of those behaviors and move in or move out when it's needed. And this helps other people do the same.
Thank you, Lily. Next, we have identifiers. So just naming yours and respecting others, right? So I have she, her. Those are my pronouns in my bio. Feel free to rename yourself and include your pronouns if you'd like, or any other identifiers. We can identify everyone respectfully.
Awesome. Please go.
It is awesome. Next, we have mean what you say. So we can't control other members' responses, but we can make sure that we are putting thought and intention into our words and being held accountable with what we say and what we put out into the world.
So at this point, I like to open it up to our community members. We've done this in the past where we've kind of called on people or given folks space to read the ones that they like, or to read the rest of the ones. So I'm going to give this one to our speaker, even though she's not introduced yet, but she is going to read number 7. But then think about who wants to claim 8, 9, and 10 so that we can hear from you as well.
Thank you. So 7, confidentiality. Share your learning, not the other person's privacy. Ask permission from the person before sharing content outside of the group.
Perfect. Who's going to do number 8?
I can do 8. This is Kirsha.
Thank you, Kirsha.
Hey, everyone. So 8 is disagree with the idea and not the person. This is a space for constructive dialogue, avoid making personal attacks, and focus on those I statements.
Number 9. Who's going to do number 9, moments of growth? Maybe Marianne, can you read it? Should we zoom it out a little bit so you can read it better?
Okay, I know. I think I did. I changed. I'm on my phone, you guys, and so.
No
All right,
problem.
we have moments of growth. PMS moderate see conflict as an opportunity for shared growth. We believe if the community guidelines are followed, this can be achieved.
Awesome.
Thank you, Marianne.
Yeah.
Number 10, who's going next? Who do I see?
I can take this.
Perfect.
Yeah. 10, if you like it, let us know. We encourage members to snap or wave when they hear something that resonates with them.
Yeah.
And Elsa was demonstrating that perfectly. Thank you, guys.
Wonderful. Okay, so now let's get to the cream of the crop for today. I'd love to introduce our speaker, Alex Chester, who is an amazing person, super special. She's an actor. She's the editor-in-chief of the online magazine Hapa Mag, soon to be called Mixed Asian Media. She's the director of Mixed Asian Media Fest, which is a celebration of mixed APIs, Asian Pacific Islanders, through creative art forms, which is happening in September 2021. Alex is a member of the first all Asian American sketch comedy troupe called the Model Majority. And also this May, Hapa Mag, which again, Mixed Asian Media, has partnered with Blasian Project, Lunar, and Loving Day to bring APIA Month through the heritage lens via virtual activations. So we will be sharing a bunch of that, and keep an eye out on the awesome work that's continuing to come this month. Alex started acting as a child in Los Angeles and now lives in New York City. She's been in several national commercials like Popeyes, UPS, MLB, Ford, Kuga, and H&M, to name a few. She's graduating this May with her BA in dance through St. Mary's LEAP program. And she's also the first person to receive the Dean's Award for Academic Excellence and Community Engagement. So Alex is a really awesome person to talk on the issues that we're looking at here today, holds a lot of responsibility and is a gatekeeper for some of the stories that we're making space for. So thank you so much for making time, Alex, for being here and for being so open. I just want to say to all of you that this is an open Q&A discussion. So if you have questions, take yourself off of mute. You can ask Alex directly. You can also post them in the chat, and then we can moderate asking those questions. And I'm going to hand it over to you, Alex, to introduce yourself.
Thank you so much. I am just so honored to be here in this space and within this community. So thank you. My full name is Alexandra F. Chester Iwata. My mother did not change her last name when she married my dad, which was quite ahead of its time. So I have a hyphenated last name, but everyone just calls me Alex because it is a mouthful. My pronouns are she and her. And I am currently visiting my family, who I haven't seen in a year and a half, in Long Beach, California, which is the indigenous land of the Pavuga people. I hope I pronounced that correctly. So that you can learn more about that. Cal State Long Beach has an awesome videos series on this as well. Yeah, I'm just so happy to be here. Happy APIA Heritage Month, everyone. Happy Jewish American Heritage Month. Happy Mental Health Awareness Month. I identify as mixed Asian, as a Jewish woman, as an artist, as a human being. Yeah, I wear many hats, so it's easy. I think the easiest way to sum me up is I'm a multi-hyphenate.
Yeah. So we kind of already started getting into it. Like AAPI is mostly argued about, to just keep it kind of simple in that sense. It is the acronym for Asian American Pacific Islander, and this term does include people having origins in any of the Far East, Southeast Asia, Indian subcontinents, but it also includes Native Hawaiian, Samoan, like Chamorro, Fijian, Tongan, the Marshallese people, and encompasses people within the United States jurisdictions of like Melanesia, Micronesia, Polynesia. I'm wondering, when did you become aware of this month, and what does it mean to you?
I did not become aware of this month until very late in life. Honestly, it wasn't until I moved to New York City, and I would say even a few years into my move to New York City, that I was like, oh, there's a month that celebrates us. What? I didn't know this, didn't grow up with it. So yeah, it was kind of like, cool. Now what? You know? It's all very fine and well with, honestly, any month that we celebrate. It's always like, okay, what are you doing outside of this month to help these communities, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, so I personally think really it's a really cool month to really engage our audiences, specifically with the mixed Asian media community. And this is why, so Jen from Lunar Asian Jew Project reached out to me and was like, hey, I had this idea of bringing all these mixed API communities together. Can you help me? And I said, yeah, let me reach out to Blasian Project and Loving Day. And we all got together on Zoom, as you do now, and we came up with this awesome lineup of online activations within each of our respective organizations, and sometimes they cross over. So if you are interested in participating and learning more, we are hosting clubhouses, IG Lives. Our next one is on Monday with Strong Asian Lead. And I'm really excited about that. And we're actually going to be talking about the mixed API male and what it means to be, what does it mean to be a man, quote unquote, specifically from the mixed API lens. So that's something we're going to be discussing on the Strong Asian Lead Clubhouse. You can find these activations on our website, which thank you for putting it in the chat right there. It's been really cool, and it's been a great way to connect with the community.
So can you tell me a little bit about mixed Asian media, and that's now transitioning into mixed Asian media and out of Hapa Mag? Like, what does that rebrand look like? Why are you changing your name? Tell us about that.
So we decided to change our name for one reason, several reasons. One of the reasons being is that we are expanding so much, and with the festival, and we want to be more than just an online magazine. And so we thought with underneath mixed Asian media, it's much more inclusive. We can have a podcast, we can produce our own YouTube series, or even have a TV series, et cetera, et cetera. There is like no ceiling within the realm of mixed Asian media, as we feel. We also decided to rebrand because of the word Hapa and the surrounding context of that word. Not many people within our audience realize that the word is an indigenous Hawaiian term, and not many people realize that there's a lot of colonization around the word. That's why it came about, et cetera, et cetera. So we wanted to be very mindful and respectful of this word. And that's not to say you can't identify as Hapa. I personally do. I grew up with this word, but I also know the history, and I know why this word came about. I know the origin of it. And we, as a Hapa Mag mixed Asian media, have really done a lot of research and have had a lot of conversations surrounding this word and why it can and why it can't be used. I think knowing the background and the history is very important. So we realize not everyone within our community identifies with the word Hapa. So we really want to be inclusive and make everyone feel welcome, and that there is a space for them to be seen and be heard. And I think underneath mixed Asian media, that will really be the space.
Thank you. Yeah, I also just want to take a little bit of a moment to kind of unpack some of these acronyms, because it's like there's AAPI and there's APA, which is something I think a word that you use, or like an acronym that you use, APA, and then Culturas, actually, who's also an organization doing really awesome work. They're using APIDA, which is Asian Pacific Islander Desi American, which feels really important to me because it includes a whole group of folks who often feel excluded from this conversation. And so, yeah, I guess like you were saying you identify as Hapa. Magazine is turning into ma'am to include more than being a magazine, also more than being Hapa, understanding like mixed Asian and everything that comes with that. How do you feel about all the acronyms and like NH, Native Hawaiian, and where the Pacific and the Islander comes into play, and how essentially half of the whole globe's population is supposed to find a way to kind of fit together, but then it's also kind of making us fight a little bit because there's not enough space in like one term to fit everyone.
There isn't, and it's very sticky. We decided to go with APIA, which is Asian Pacific Islander American, specifically to give a little more space and inclusivity to the Pacific Islanders, because I feel like a lot of times they get lost in the conversation. And there has been a movement that's coming about to remove themselves underneath the Asian diaspora, which I don't necessarily think is a bad thing. I just think that there's, we're not a monolith. And I think that's kind of the bad thing about all these acronyms. We're just kind of lumped all together. But meanwhile, we're such diverse and unique cultures. And we all don't speak the same languages. There's different dialects, there's different foods. It's just, so I don't know. I think it's kind of sticky. I didn't make up the name. The US government made up the name, which says a lot personally. I think it's just within our own communities that we need to take the power back and just make sure our voices are heard and that we are being inclusive of each other. So, we are doing our best we can to be inclusive of our Pacific Islander brothers and sisters. And we can do better. I know that. And especially also our South Asian, brothers and sisters and our Southeast Asian brothers and sisters, we can also do better. And there's always room to grow. And that is what I'm really hoping will happen with MAM, is that we will be able to be more inclusive and also be more respectful. And if people want to move away from, like if Pacific Islanders want to move away from those acronyms, awesome. I will support that 100%.
I'm just going to take a breath and acknowledge everything that you're saying and everything that I'm hearing from you, and give people a chance to digest all this for a second, and also continue to encourage you to put your questions in the chat, or actually even just hold for a moment in case anyone has a question that they feel called to ask. So there's this word that I came up against, Alex, that I feel really interested in your like personal opinion. It's called bamboo ceiling. And it was actually coined in 2005 by Jane Huan in a book called Breaking the Bamboo Ceiling, which is about career strategies for Asians. And as a woman, I don't identify as Asian, but as a woman, I understand the term, the glass ceiling. And I've done work and heard like thought leaders and women leaders talk about breaking that glass ceiling. And so I really loved the term bamboo ceiling that I learned in our research, because it made me aware of the acute intersectionality, being aware of like what it means to be woman or female identified and Asian identifying, and that there's a double ceiling there, which obviously I know, but there's a word for it, which just makes it even more specific. And it makes it, for me, I love words. It makes me able to use it and then to take the power back, like you just said. So I'm wondering if that's a term you've heard before, if it's something that resonates with you.
It is a term I have heard before. It resonates me within, I'm sure many people within our own respective careers, and mine as an actor, it definitely resonates with that, especially within, what theater roles are available to Asian Americans, what roles are available in TV and film. It definitely resonates with me. I don't want to be stuck doing Miss Saigons and King and I's the rest of my life. That is just, it's been done. I don't need to see those shows ever again. So it definitely resonates with me. It's very hard to break that bamboo ceiling and to just get to play a human being without identifiers surrounding that experience. Like it's hard. And I think it's a necessary term. And it's very hard for both Asian females and both Asian males and the spectrum in between.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Thank you. I just want to say that, I mean, yeah, you were talking about as being an actor and identifying, like just being able to play a human. Do you feel that when you're allowed to be yourself, that there's from the outside sometimes, because of the nature, I know for me, for example, when I'm supposed to just be myself, it kind of leaves me a little bit blank because I'm so used to defending an identity or defending a truth or educating or, acknowledging my own privilege in a space around people of color, especially around Black people. And it just made me think like, just being a human, it's like, there's automatically these like, yeah, but what kind of human are you? Like what kind of human am I supposed to categorize you under? Like, how do you deal with that, I guess, on a daily basis when it comes to getting dressed, when it comes to, I don't know, anything that you're doing, like that's kind of more regular?
Well, it's taken me a long time to be very comfortable in my own skin, and I'm still working on it. Therapy really helps, for one thing. But, for the longest time, I really did try to fit in the boxes people were putting me in. So like dyed my hair darker to appear more Asian. I've gone blonde to be more white. And these were all suggestions of agents and managers of mine. So it's taken me a long time to be like, you know what, F this. I just want to dye my hair purple and I want to dress the way I like to dress. I'm going to get tattoos. I'm going to have piercings. And yeah, I'm just going to enjoy life. And it's taken me a long time to get there. So now I just kind of do what I want. And, obviously like I'm going out for like the demure ingenue. I'm not going to come in like full punk rock gear. Like I do understand that, but like, for the most part, I really just try to be myself and luckily it has been working. And of course there's going to be people that are being like, no, you can't do that. But I think something I've really come to embrace is that I can't please everyone, but the person that I can please is myself.
Quote of the day, the person that I can please is myself. Thank you. Thank you. So tell me a little bit more about the projects that you're working on right now, and how you got to the projects that you're working on right now, like what led you to do the work that you're doing?
Sure. So we are in the middle of Mixed Asian Media Fest. And that kind of came about is because we kept getting so many submissions of films and art pieces and theatrical pieces. And we were just kind of like, wow, this is a lot of stuff. And I was like, what if we just had a festival? Why not? And I'm thinking at the time, like, oh, we're going to just post it on YouTube and maybe we'll do like a Zoom and just talk about it and it'll be fun. And then it blew up. And now we're going to have a 5-day festival and we have, talkbacks and presentations and speakers and ask me anythings. And we're going to have awards. It's going to be a whole shebang. And I'm really, really, really excited about it. Right now it's virtual. Hopefully, depending on how things are going with the pandemic, I would like to have like a meetup possibly to, celebrate the first day of the festival. So that'll be September 15th to the 19th. And it will be on the platform Hopin. And I'm really excited about that. And we have some amazing sponsors. Crux is sponsoring us, and Leviathan Lab is our fiscal sponsor, and Luna Bar is a sponsor. Strong Asian Lead is a sponsor. There's a few others, and we're still in talks of several others as well. So that's one big project. We also, we have API Heritage Month, which is ongoing right now. We have a pop-up issue coming out the May 19th, I want to say. Sam is in the chat, is in the room, and he can correct me if I'm wrong. Then we have our rebrand to Mixed Asian Media, which will be happening June 9th. And I'm very excited about that. I don't think I should say who's going to be our cover, but we have a very, very exciting feature in June. And I'm very, very excited for that. And then what else? I also booked a TV show, and I will be appearing in an episode of The Good Fight. I don't know when it will be airing because the new season hasn't aired yet, but I'm very excited about that. I got to work with like an idol of mine, Manny Patinkin. I used to grow up seeing all of his concerts and everything, so that was really cool. What else? I think that's it. Model Majority just had a sketch comedy show, and I believe you can watch that on their YouTube link.
Okay.
I'm graduating. I have a little more left, like 1 week left of school, and then I'm graduating. So that's done. I'm not busy at all.
And she said, that's it. Like, that's it.
She's like, and I don't
That's a lot.
food. Model Majority. I want to get into that. Like, that's a really interesting name because it really reflects this other term that is quite prominent within the conversation around Asian American identity, which is model minority. So tell us a little bit about what is your definition of the model minority myth? And then also tell us about what model majority is as a sketch group.
So for me, the model minority myth is that you have to, be the best whatever possible. There is no room for failure. You cannot bounce back if you fail, whatever fail means. And you just have to be better than everyone else. And you can't rock the boat. You can't speak up. You just go along with society, whatever society says is right, and you don't speak up, and you keep to yourself, don't rock the boat, all those things. That to me is what the model minority myth entails. What I love about model majority, and I think the reason why Veronica, who started it, and I can only speak for myself, I can't speak for her, started that and used that word is because we are a majority of the population. We aren't just this like teeny tiny percentage. We are, honestly, we rule. We're just everywhere. And so that was part of the reason why she used that term. And also to just be kind of like a tongue in cheek, punch at model minority.
Yeah. And I just love that. It's like the same thing as like taking something that's kind of not been the most positive and then making it, it's like the claiming and the ownership of it that I just absolutely love. I want to talk more about model minority. And as a surprise cameo, we have a question from Sam for you, Alex.
Hey everyone, I'm Sam Tanabe, and I'm the managing editor for Hapa Mag, soon to be Mixed Asian Media. I really love when any of our staff gets to collaborate with the mixed space, and since Alex is the guest for the May Meetup, I thought I'd ask her a question about the model minority myth. As a mixed race Asian, a lot of those stereotypes were placed on me growing up, but I don't think we've ever talked about, did you experience the same thing? And what's so harmful about these stereotypes, and how can we combat them? Looking forward to hearing your answer, Alex.
Thank you, Sam.
Thank you, Sam. What a good question. I am actually amazed we have not really discussed this at all within our group. We really haven't. And I'm just kind of like, why haven't we? I think we're probably we have so many other things, but that is such a good question. Yeah, definitely those things were placed on me growing up, especially because I was a child actor and because I was viewed as Asian, but not Asian enough. And I wasn't ever viewed as white. I was definitely viewed as, I remember being called exotic all the damn time, or China doll. That was, you're such a pretty little China doll. And I was like, but I'm not Chinese. Why are you calling me that? And so it was definitely, there was a lot of pressure that I would say I put on myself to be the best in the audition room and to be better than the full Asian kids that I was competing against, and even at the very rare times the white side kids that I was competing against. So it was definitely you have to be better than everyone else, and there is no room for mistakes. You need to have your lines memorized, you need to learn your dance steps, you need to learn the song, and putting that type of pressure on myself and the pressure that the agents and managers put on me was, it's definitely played with my head. Once again, therapy, yay. I wish I had found my therapist much sooner, but it has very much helped me unpack a lot of that pressure that's been put on me and helped me redefine who I am as a person. Because for the longest time, I did not know who I was outside of actor Alex, performer Alex. Mm-hmm. So I think having that pressure of being the best and not speaking up whenever I felt uncomfortable, because you're not allowed to. You're not allowed to say, hey, I'm not comfortable wearing that. That seems a little, racist. Also, the language at the time, we didn't have the language we have now. And I'm so grateful that we do have these terms and these words and just the space to speak up. But at the time, that was not a thing. You were not allowed to say no. You were not allowed to say, no, I will not do that accent. What do you mean Asian accent? There's like multiple languages in surrounding that. So that was something I did not grow up feeling comfortable saying no to. And yeah, there's a lot there. There stories I could tell, man, the stories.
Mm-hmm. And do you feel, because you were talking about the pressure that you put on yourself, just you putting that on yourself, the pressure from agents. Was there like family pressure as well to be the best that was different than the stage mom pressure? Do you know what I mean? Like there's such a definitive dance mom, stage mom, like you have to be, there is that push there in the industry already. But did you feel like it was more so, or was it just sort of like being mixed, trying to find your way, the agents? Like, was there something more there, do you think? Or was it just the pressure of success in general?
So I was really fortunate that I didn't have, I grew up surrounded by a lot of stage mothers from other kids. And I was fortunate that my mom wasn't quite like them, She definitely was a lot more grounded. And I think it helped that she's a lawyer and a background in law, and that definitely helped. But, there definitely was the pressure of, if I'm schlepping you to all these auditions and this is something you want to do, then you do need to do a good job and not just, wing it. So there was that, and that to me is understandable. But this was something that I did choose to go into. Like I begged my mom and grandma to put me into the business. Why did I do that? Looking back, I'm like, why did I do that? But I definitely loved being in the spotlight as a kid. I was one of those kids that at the mall would go and stand on the mannequins and pretend to model. My family was so embarrassed by me. But so I would say there was just a little bit of the pressure just because of I'm giving up my time at work for you to take you to all these auditions and rehearsals and dance classes and voice lessons, et cetera, et cetera. But there was definitely from the agents of being, well, we don't really know what to do with you, so you have to be better than everyone else.
Yes, hearing that for sure. I want to talk about how the model minority myth is sort of perpetuated by the media as well. And I feel like, a lot of people can speak on the way that we've seen different ethnicities portrayed fitting into stereotypes, like especially as we're starting to break that mold now. Like, how do you think that the media's portrayance of it has sort of shifted our cultural understanding of that term, or even like introduced that term subconsciously to us without even us realizing it, right? Because like that, I grew up with, stereotypes being put on Asians, Latinas, of different races. And so now as an adult, I'm like, whoa, model minority myth. That's just like what I've seen. Like that's what I know.
Well, first and foremost, I think we have to remember that the gatekeepers of Hollywood are, for the most part, white, right? Mm-hmm. So everything is through the white lens. It's getting better. I can definitely say that it is getting better, but is it where it should be? No, not even close. I have a friend, Maria Lynn Rosenberg, who used to have this company called Cast and Loose. And what she would do is she would take the casting breakdowns that Hollywood, the CBS, all the major companies would put out to the agents. And she would take those and dissect them. Because let me tell you, they are racist at just misogynistic, racist. They are terrible. And what she would do is she would have these shows at like Joe's Pub in New York City, and she would have a cast of, if we were going to talk about, through the Black lens, and she would have a cast of all Black actors, and they would read these breakdowns, and we would dissect them and talk about them. And she did that for Asian Americans as well. And, so it's perpetuated in the media because the gatekeepers are white, and And then, so, how can things change if we're constantly being fed this BS of what it means to be other and what it means to be non-white? It's really frustrating.
Right.
It's really frustrating.
And do you feel like because of that, there's sort of been this halt of being able to have a conversation? Like, do you feel like because of what we're seeing, and because of I can only speak from the I perspective, but it's there are certain things that my family has said about other ethnicities, and it's like, where do you get that from? Like, how does that happen? Like, there's fire going on in the chat right now talking about different people being pitted against each other, and I just want to hold for that as well. Thinking about, and as you just said, like, who is the gatekeeper? I've had this conversation with a couple speakers before, but it's like, the point is to pit ethnicities against each other, right? Like, that is the point.
Absolutely.
That is literally how people stay in power. It's like, we're gonna actually not deal with it surface level, and we're just gonna put stereotypes on other people, and then that makes people be put against each other. And I think what we're talking about is so important, specifically within the model minority myth, because, the things that I've heard when breaking down the violence that's happening right now, right? When breaking down everything that's coming to light, it's like everyone's inner influences from media, from what we've heard through the news, from different politicians who have said certain things. It's like everything is coming up right now. And it just sort of makes me think what has happened and or what needs to happen to start the conversation, because it's like that myth is felt by other groups as well. And it's does the media do something? I don't know where this question is going, but it's like, does the media do something? And is that sort of what the hold is for passing information down through generations? Is it passed down generationally? I've heard stuff from my grandmother that's like, how did you get that? Where did that come from? And it's insane. So I'm just wondering, what your experience has been hearing stuff from your older relatives, from the older generations, now thinking about this new shift that wants to happen to break those stereotypes, and just your experience in that, and sort of what you've been doing to just have that open conversation.
Ooh, that's a lot. So
it's a lot. It's so much.
No, it's a lot. It's, I think I'm very fortunate that my mom and grandma who raised me are very woke, especially for their generations. My grandma's going to be 93, and my mom has done a lot. They both have done a lot of work within civil rights and within women's rights, especially women's rights. I did have an uncle and his wife, Ermi, who I remember being in San Francisco, I think I told you before, and we would just pretend we didn't know them because the stuff that was coming out of their mouths was so racist. And we're like, where did this even come from? Especially my uncle, who's a Jewish man who fought in World War II, saw the atrocities of the Holocaust, and it's just like, where do these misconceptions even come from when you have the Jewish population has there's stereotypes, right? It's just mind-blowing. And I definitely need to acknowledge there is a lot of anti-Blackness within the Asian community. And I like to think that my generation and the generation below us are now having these conversations. And I know there are previous generations that were having the conversations surrounding this to try to amend that. And I think that's the only way we're going to fix this, is if we can just keep talking to each other and having these hard conversations and acknowledging the bullshit that the white supremacy has put on us. Because can you imagine the world if we weren't fighting each other? Goodbye colonialism, goodbye white supremacy. We would have so much. It would just be a beautiful space, I would think. And I think it's definitely not a benefit to white supremacists. it just isn't. And that if this is a way to keep us down is by perpetuating stereotypes through media and having us continually fight amongst each other for scraps. And nothing will change unless we kind of go, hey, that's really effed up. Let's not do that anymore with each other. Let's cross the line. Let's hug, let's eat dumplings, let's eat whatever together and take down the powers and the gatekeepers that are holding us back. And that's what I'm really hoping with, mixed Asian media is that it's a little something that we can do is to showcase, our community and have conversations with other communities and talk amongst each other to help break down these stereotypes. Because otherwise, I mean, if we wait for someone to come and save us, that's never going to happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and in the mindset of thinking about breaking down those stereotypes, you've spoken about being a Jewish woman, and you've also spoken about being Asian, and I'm just wondering, like, the correlations that you've seen between those two cultures, and if you could talk more about that, because like I sometimes forget that I can identify as something other than my race, right? Like I can say like, oh, I actually like, I have a religion too, and I firmly believe in, in being a Christian. Like that's crazy, because I feel like I'm viewed as, well, you're Hispanic, that's what you got, move on. Like you just said you identified as a Jewish woman, and that's amazing. So I'm just curious to know, in the mindset of like breaking down, those boundaries and conversations, the similarities you've seen.
Well, I think one thing I'd like to say real quick is I think that it's part of that. It goes back to, oh God, it's icky, and I hate to even say it, but it goes back to that one drop rule doing something, right? Of why we are perceived in the States as, whatever ethnic portion you are that. You are not seen as anything else. And I think that is human, right? Because like I remember reading, I think it was in my anthropology class, we were talking about, what was it, Brazil, one of the other countries, and it's not like that as much. And I thought that was fascinating. But anyways, so I'm so sorry. I'm going off on a different tangent already.
No.
So the similarities in the culture. So I actually wrote an article a while ago. I should update it now. I called like Jews and Asians go together like peanut butter and jelly. And I really think it's because at the base values, like the core set values, family is very, very important. Community is very, very important. And I think that is why you see a lot of times intermarriages between the Jewish communities and the Asian communities. At least that's in my perception. Karma, be a good person, all of that is really wrapped in both the Jewish culture, and I'd say many Asian cultures, specifically, at least for my side, the Japanese, because my dad's side is Buddhist. And I say Buddhist very loosely. There was a rabbi and a Buddhist monk that performed my mom and dad's wedding, but very loosely practicing Buddhists. But still, the whole thing is be a good person, do good to others, just be good, be nice. And I think, and community and family is very, very important. And I think that's why there's so much cross between the cultures. I also think that if you're a white outsider looking even at our foods traditionally on both sides, I grew up with being like, why are you eating that? And that could have been Asian food I was eating at school, or it could have been the Jewish food I was eating at school. It was always othered by the white kids. So I think that's also a similarity, that our foods aren't normal, quote unquote, whatever that means.
I want to take it over from here, Ariel, if that's okay with you, because I want to talk about, I want to talk about allyship really specifically. I think it's like, this is a good time to really start that conversation. We've already started it in the chat. This is actually an opportunity. Jet, if you feel like you want to take yourself off mute, your voice would definitely add to this conversation of what is happening historically and currently to keep us pitted against each other, to keep us unaware of how much power we have collectively, and to also understand allyship really. I mean, Alex, hold your shirt up. I only saw it briefly during our tech check, but Mixed communities stand against AAPI hate. So maybe you could just start right there, like elaborate. What does that mean to you to stand together against something else? Like, just tell me about your shirt.
I also have this shirt in Mixed Communities Support Black Lives Matter. I also have that too. And this is by this amazing artist called 6 Degrees of Hapa, Naomi Takata Shepherd. I don't know if maybe Sam or Allison can throw her information up in the chat. She's a wonderful artist, a wonderful ally, and she makes these shirts. And these shirts I just thought were beautiful and really are my core values, you know, bringing the mixed communities together. Because, you know, in 100 years, everyone's going to look like us. Just, you know.
Yeah. So, I mean, and we are all mixed. Like, I feel like the millennial word for like term of mixed with this classic kind of ethnic ambiguity and the fetishized light eyes and curly hair texture kind of, there's a way to make it bad, but technically as we start unpacking ourselves, we understand that our identities are layered, like our feelings about the way that we live in the world. We all carry mixed feelings about ourselves, our bodies, our identities, our skin types. Like we're all mixed, like mixed people have existed for as long as humans have existed. Like we just really need to talk about it because that gives us the space to be ourselves more fully. But what does it mean to you to be an ally?
Means to be a good person, treat others how you would want to be treated. I mean, maybe it sounds really simple as that, but it really is. Just like, don't be a dick, like be a good person. Mm-hmm. If you see something terrible happening, I mean, whether it's, you know, violence against anyone, it doesn't matter who you are, or someone saying something, speak up about it, you know, support that person. Obviously, you know, things can the world is a scary place right now, I have to say, and the Trump administration definitely made it a lot worse, my opinion. But I just think it just means being a good person, listening, knowing when to shut up and listen is really powerful too. It's not always all about you. I mean, yes, there's intersectionality and we can talk about that, but there are times to be quiet and there's times to listen, and then there are also times to speak up. And I think it's just knowing when that and where that is and asking questions. I think right now there is a big stigma and scariness about asking questions because people are afraid to be canceled. And totally, I mean, you don't want to, some people do ask questions, you're just like, whoa, is that what you think? Really? But without questions, without communication, how can we grow? How can we heal? And I just think being able to have tough conversations, being able to sit and listen to each other. And you know, I really think that is allyship to me. And also, if I'm going to march in your protest, I hope you come and march in my protest. I hope you write your senators and congressmen about things that are important to me, just as I will write to them about things that are important to you. And it's all that stuff.
For me, it really also means, and I live by this because I feel it in my blood, I feel it in my body, I see it with my family. Like I'm not free, we're not free until everyone is free. Like I have privilege, and yet I cannot live out like my full life and like my full potential when my cousins, my siblings, my family members, people that I love and that are close to me are experiencing oppression that is way, way worse than anything that I've ever experienced.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I acknowledge that I have privilege as being, I hate using that word, ambiguous, but I do. I have been on the subway and I've had people come up to me and start talking about how they hate Asians. And I'm just like, what? Why do you feel you can come and talk to me? First of all, it's a subway. And second of all, why are you saying this? So I know there is privilege when I walk down the street. I don't have to worry about necessarily a hate crime happening against me. Yes, I do have to worry that I will be harassed as a woman. I do realize that. So there is a difference. And I just believe, you know, systematic oppression, it's there to keep people down. And until we can get free one group, the other groups are just going to stay oppressed as well. It just is.
Mia, I see you're here, like Mia Tatum. I'm going to call you out because you put this really great comment in the chat that I want to bring back up. You said your mom's at your house. Shout out to your mom. Also happy pre-Mother's Day to all the moms here with your daughters. And you said she's Black and Japanese, and she walked through the kitchen. She said, check one box. I did that for a long time. And I'm interested in that, you know, Mia, if you're not able to take yourself off mute, if you don't want to talk, that's fine. But it is an interesting concept. Like, it feels to me like something that people have to choose sometimes, especially think about AAPI communities, how there's not enough boxes and spaces for people to choose multiple, how oftentimes we're forced to pick one box. And even still, so often I sign up for things and it's like, I can't choose multiple boxes. And so then I have to choose which one I feel most comfortable with. And so the checking the box is a big topic, but I did want to bring this up because it is, you know, a form of survival, and it is a form of getting through these questions. Do you have anything that you want to share about checking boxes, or about like when you feel like how you feel about checking them, you know, like what is it, a political choice to you? Is it something where you're like, I decline to check the boxes? How does that make you feel? Alex.
Oh, I wasn't sure. Sorry.
No, thank you.
Oh gosh. I mean, I definitely, for the census, I did check the boxes that I needed to. I think that was important, especially because the census was trying to be suppressed for many reasons. But it's frustrating. I remember growing up and having to, like, you know, the standardized tests and having to check one box, and I always like, what am I supposed to check? I don't understand. And still, it is frustrating because I'm kind of like, well, why is it just Asian? I mean, I'm Japanese American. It's so frustrating that it's just one box. And then even white, because I would say many white people don't recognize that Jewish people are white. Granted, things have changed, but I know for a fact that my mom and grandma experienced incredible racism growing up. I've experienced racism for being Jewish. So yeah, it's just, I don't know if there's an answer. Like, I definitely sometimes I decline to answer if it's like doctor's office, something ridiculous like that. When I've been getting COVID tests, they're like, what are you? You need to check a box. And I was like, why? They're like, you decline? I'm like, yeah. Like, why do you need to know? I'm getting a COVID test. Things like that. You know, auditions are harder. They're not allowed to ask you your ethnicity, but they do. It's against the law, but they do. So I don't have an answer for that, and maybe someone else does, but I think it's just to each in their own at this point until get things to change.
Yeah, picking up what Sean said, as someone who is both South Asian and East Asian, I resent having to pick one box when I actually identify as being mixed. My Chinese and India sides are about as different as any culture or ethnicity can be.
Right? I mean, it's just like, I just want to be like, duh.
Right. Questions, y'all. We're moving out of the more structured part and moving into open questions. This is a time to bring up some of the things that have been named in the chat. Ask questions that we haven't asked yet. What do y'all want to know? I'm just going to read Mia. Hi, I'm so sorry. Way too noisy here with my kids. We would all have spoke up. We would all have spoke up. My mom says that it is like you are denying her Japanese side, but back then you could only check one. Yeah. Thank you, Mia. Yeah, questions. Take yourselves off of mute if you want. Otherwise, put them in the chat and we will ask them for you. If you want to ask them anonymously, you can email, you can message one of us directly and we'll ask for you. This is a time, to see what else comes up, to see maybe some of the things that we haven't had a chance to talk about. So I'm just going to give folks a moment to collect their thoughts and their questions and see what else comes up.
And also, everyone, just take a breath, please. Like, we know that these conversations are taxing, right? Because we all have to go through like, I've had the box thing as a mixed kid. Like, yes, someone has said this to me. Yes. So please just remember to be drinking water, taking breaths, and like putting good practices into place.
I just saw someone posted, where are you from? California. Oh, I meant you don't look. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I have this quote that I want to read. History is about power. The ability to tell the story is a very powerful thing. And the history we have learned in the West is about justifying, maintaining, and supporting the illusion that Western civilization and Western control is the destiny. So this quote feels important to me because it's about storytelling. And I just wanted to kind of give that into the space too, as we're collecting questions like, what are the stories that we haven't told yet? Who feels called to share a piece of their story and what's resonated with them in the conversation thus far, because it is a way of reshaping history, because our bodies are the current world. We're in the current world, and it's our opportunity to reshape history in storytelling. Yes, Mary, did I just see you raise your hand?
Yes, I did. First of all, I just want to say this has been great. Wonderful discussions. Yes, trying to soak it all in, all the information coming my way. I know for a friend of mine and we started an Instagram page, being Hapa, kind of playing off of that Hapa and the connotation, knowing it's not always positive, not always negative, but how do we gain control of it? But in some of these conversations, and maybe I want to get your guys' thoughts on this. For me, I'm older. I'm part Vietnamese. My family's first generation here in the country. I was the only one of my siblings born here in the U.S. And so I really felt I had kind of an definitely older mindset, culturally different. Having a mother who is Asian that raised me, and then being here in the U.S., it was really a clash of what you were supposed to do. I was definitely supposed to be quiet, meek, and then I had to figure out how to kind of survive in this white world of everything that I had learned, growing up. So I think there was definitely some generational differences. I definitely see those who are kind of coming up, who are definitely mixed race. There's less reluctancy to be one or the other. There's like, we're going to make a change. We're going to change the mindset that maybe we learned from our grandparents or something. One thing I wanted to bring up and with all of this beyond that statement is I remember something like kind of going out with my friends, playing outside, which wasn't always something a kid should do. I should have been working in the house or, helping the family, but I'd go out and play. And I remember I would get tanned or, playing outside and getting in trouble for getting tanned. And one thing that I kind of learned was definitely Asian, it seems like culturally, there was kind of it's class structured, even though it's kind of a collective society, there was still a class structure. The kind of raised older to get ahead, definitely, it was like if you had whiter skin, you were kind of seen higher class. And so sometimes I wonder if a little bit of when kind of coming over here in the US, there was a little bit of that, why we complied a little bit to trying to blend into with Caucasians, because we're really used to that kind of mindset a little bit. And I'm curious, again, you guys are younger. I don't know if that's something you guys saw when you're growing up and whether that might be some things that we've kind of carried on growing up here in the US.
So just to feel clear, you're talking about connecting, like not being in the sun and connecting that with class, which is what I understand too. And in some of the East Asian countries that being outside and working outside means you get tan, and that is a sign of class, versus being higher class, and being inside and being more protected from the sun immediately allows folks to see where you're working and associate a class with that. And so what are you asking specifically?
Well, I was curious whether if that was something that definitely you guys have seen, and whether this is something that maybe we need to have a discussion amongst ourselves, kind of an understanding. And so we can maybe be able to work better on being allies and working through our own biases of maybe being judgmental to those with darker skin color, or if we're kind of seeing a little bit of walls drawn up between Asians and Blacks. It's not only what society has put on us, but what are we within our own community may have put some barriers up there.
Yes. Alex, go for it.
Oh gosh. I will say fortunately, because I am third generation American on both sides, I did not grow up with that. I'm also like a Southern California girl, so sunshine, getting tan was a thing. I don't have a tan right now because I live in New York City and I am very much sun deprived. But that fortunately for me was not something I had to deal with, but I do have friends that have had to deal with that. And I do have friends that have in their mind, and I'm not going to out anyone, that pale is better. And like, if I go to Korea, I can get my skin bleached for a lot cheaper, that sort of thing. And it's very hard to hear. And I'm trying to listen and understand where they are coming from and why that is a standard of beauty to them, and try to help them perhaps unpack that. Yeah, it is definitely real. That is definitely a thing that I have heard and seen friends deal with, and it sucks. I think it's gross personally. Because I think everyone's beautiful, and why can't we just be happy? But yeah, for me personally, I have not dealt with you can't be in the sunshine, and you can't, my grandmother did actually, my Jewish grandma, her mom was my Jewish grandma, tanned really, really, really dark. And she grew up in the time during segregation. So it was a fear of her being seen as dark and wouldn't be allowed in the white zones. And that was a thing, actually, which is so bizarre from our Jewish side. But that wasn't really something my dad's side ever instilled in me. And I think that's partially because they were farmers. They knew they were farmers, and they came here and they farmed. So it was kind of like, well, we're all going to be tan.
And what you are talking about, Mary, specifically is anti-Blackness. I mean, period. Whether it's anti-Blackness within Asian communities, towards other Asians, whether it's anti-Blackness towards Black people, African Americans that maybe don't identify as Asian, also naming that even in our space today, there are people whose identities intersect. Like there are people who are Black and Asian. How do you there's no way of keeping that apart. So being someone who deals with those identities and has darker skin and is Asian and is Black, like that must be so painful to understand that there are folks maybe within your own diaspora, within your own blood who have that internalized anti-Blackness, and to have to dismantle that. And then, Jet says, like, do you think Asian Americans have to suffer proportionally to African Americans before they gain any respect, as if they have to gain some street cred first? It's like, even that to me brings up an idea of like, there's kind of a fight within quote minority groups to who's suffered more, who suffered less, like who has more credibility, whose needs do we need to center first. And that brings a competition, as if like we've got to compete inside these groups, when in actuality, we're all fighting against white supremacy. We're all fighting against Black, like anti-Blackness. We're all fighting against Western supremacy and colonialism. And so like, that actually takes us away, like having to see who has more cred, like it really is, it's taking us out of the focus.
Yeah, and I just want to hop off of that really quickly. Also, what I'm hearing about is just this idea of colorism that happens so predominantly in communities individually. I mean, I feel that in my Latin community, you know, when I've gone back to Mexico, these darker, beautiful girls look up to me because I'm lighter, and I've seen the way that they look at me with their eyes, and it's heartbreaking because it's like they think that I have everything. But then going back to what Lily has been saying, and this competition of trauma, it's like, as a mixed person, I've been told by people, like, you can't claim Latina, you haven't gone through it. Like, you haven't been through it to claim being Hispanic in that way, which is so strange, because then we think of intergenerational trauma and we think like, well, technically, I feel a lot of the same things anyway, because we've learned now trauma is passed down genetically. So it's like, what are we even talking about? And that does go back to, why am I trying so hard to be white? Like, what is the situation right now? Why do and I've had to unpack this too, in the summer, I tan really intensely. In the winter, why am I obsessed with how light I can get? Because why do I want to look like Snow White? Why do I want to see if I can get to a point with my dark hair that I could pass for a girl that could play Snow White? What is that thinking? Like, where does that even come from? But it's also like, you know, growing up, people always said mixed kids are the cutest. Why is that? Mixed kids with white are the cutest. Why is that? We look at representation in the media. You know, it's mixed people playing different races, and it's kind of like, that's cool that we see representation, but it's like, where's the darker girls? Like, we're getting there, but it's like, now we have mixed people playing fully Asian people, or mixed people playing fully Latina people, and it's like, okay, like, I see the representation that you're trying to get at, but that's not what we're talking about. And then, you know, it all just comes tumbling down again. But, you know, I'm definitely going to be thinking about that question, because, you know, I've had those conversations with friends, and specifically thinking about when Alex, you said, like, if I go to your protest, I hope you're marching in mine. Like, the stuff that I've seen on social media has kind of really prompted me to go further into what even is model minority myth, because it's like, I have had very complicated conversations with my friends that are mixed, that are Black, that are Asian, and it's like, there's pushback, and I just don't understand it as someone who is like mixed and just kind of tries to figure out like how to solve the problem of like, how do we fit in? I don't understand the pushback, and it's definitely there. So thank you to Jet for bringing that conversation up, because I don't even know how to speak to this, but it's like, I feel it, and I don't even know the answer is. Like, I don't even know where to go with it besides having a conversation about it. So thank you to that question, and thank you, Mariana, for bringing that up, because that's so true too.
Last point, Sean says, Stop Asian Hate is a very important movement, but I've also been wondering about the context of how it's phrased. So here in the US, we're assuming it's talking about East Asians, but he's saying in the UK, it's for South Asians. That might be going back to what we were saying in the opening statement. I think it's because of colonialism, of how UK colonized so much of India at a time, and how that is still considered part of the British Empire, and the immigration and the folk, quote, like minorities in the UK, when they say Asian, they're immediately thinking about a different group because of their history. So do we need more specificity around Stop Asian Hate? Like, does Desi's face oppression, but it's usually a different context than what's been happening in the US context around that hashtag Stop Asian Hate lately. So, and then Claire says, you know, she's seen Stop ESEA hate. So Stop East and South Asian hate. Sean, do you want to tell us a little bit more about maybe what you mean when you're saying, like, you know, Desi Americans, and I'm not Desi, so I don't even know if I can use that. Honestly, it might be something that I need to rephrase, but you're saying they usually face a different kind of oppression, and it's kind of almost erased in the sense of when we're saying Stop Asian Hate, we're talking about the hate crimes that have been happening against East Asians mostly right now. Is there, and then that means that we're erasing the other oppression that other folks are facing, that Southeast Asian folks are facing. So you're asking, like, do we need more specificity around this? Which I think even the new acronym ESEA is more specific. Like, does that feel like it's serving people? Have other people heard of this term?
Yeah, I mean, I hadn't seen that till I think Claire just posted that. But honestly, I think it's so interesting to me that out of all the racial kind of categories that we have, white, Black, Asian, Hispanic, I mean, it varies. It varies. Like, how often do you see South American on a thing, like non-Hispanic, white, or whatever? Like, Asian to me, especially because it's the most populous continent on the planet, the fact that you would categorize South Asians and East Asians as just Asian is, to me, no different than the word Oriental in its function. It's just like, oh, those people over there, which is like literally what Oriental means. So like, I think a friend of mine who she's a Taiwanese American actor, Jen Tsai. She wrote this really great article. I'm going to try to find it and post it in the chat, but she talked about how she doesn't really like the term Asian for her because it's like super vague. And I think ethnically her family is not like Han Chinese Taiwanese, but like, native Taiwanese. So like of course there's specificities everywhere in the world, in Europe too, but like, like I wrote earlier, it's just like the fact that we're using this language, Asian, stop Asian hate, like at the same time that we're also lumping in all these people, but it actually isn't being directed at all those people. I just feel like we need to figure other things out. I mean, like, I don't know. Do we need to start referring to people of the subcontinent, as South Asians instead of Asians? I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I always appreciate when the distinction is there. I mean, of course, yes, Chinese, Koreans, Japanese are very distinct in a lot of ways, but also there's so many historical overlaps and colonizations and blending there in a similar way that a lot of that happened in South Asia. Like a lot of, the further north you go in India, people start to look Arabic and Persian too. So like, there's so many things at play here, and there are no easy answers, but like, yeah, I just personally, I'm rubbing up against like how we use the word Asian in this country.
And thank you for bringing that to my attention, because I didn't even think about that until just now. And now I'm thinking about like, okay, that's really prevalent in my community too. Why did I not think about that?
Yeah, and I just acknowledge that. I'm going to look it up right now, but there was, I think, like in the beginning, it's so dumb, but there was a culture more of people identifying specifically, like you're saying, like I'm Japanese American, I'm Taiwanese American, whatever. And then it's like you're saying, there's so many different countries and ethnicities and specificities that people were like, well, how, but because white people and colonialism essentially has this idea of like, well, all of you look the same, everyone kind of talks the same, like how, we're not the same, but we experience similarities. So then we need to find a term so that we can refer to us together, because collectively we have more power. And now we're in this place where there's all this language to help people feel like a collective. And now it's like, well, it's still vague. And like, this is the constant struggle. Like you're saying, Ariel, we talk about this a lot with the Latin community, like Latinas community, about Latinx, so like not Latinx, like how, what actually does Latin even mean? And it's like, well, because there's 26 countries over the diaspora, over that we're trying to find a way to help people feel connected with language, but then it doesn't actually really serve us. And yeah, I mean, there's really nothing else to say to that other than it's really hard to live in this world because humans are more than borders. Humans are more than a country. Humans are more than the language of the place that we're in, and like, how do we figure that out? Okay.
I think if we can, just to be able to give everyone a break, a fun little break, I think we should take like a group photo now.
Yes.
We can go into breakout rooms and just have sort of like a more individualized experience for a couple minutes or so, or maybe more, and then we'll come back, we'll do a whiteboard sesh, and then we'll just talk more. So this is an invitation to everyone who feels good about that, the whole being on camera thing, to be on camera and stay on camera, or take yourself off, hide camera. Really, what am I trying to say? Just show yourself, reveal yourself if you'd like to. So
we're just going to take a group photo. Like, it's just a 3-second thing. So take yourself off. Doesn't matter what you look like. We just want to take a group photo. Michelle, we will take a group photo of your cake. That looks beautiful. And just to be able to show the diversity of the community that is here today and the diversity of the conversation that's happening, because this is really what representation is. So thank you, Nia. Thank you, Sue. I see you. Thank you, Sam. Thank you, Priya. So pose, I guess, Ariel, you want to count it down and then we'll take the photo.
Yeah, just confirming. Kat, you're good? You ready? Cool. All right, here we go, everyone. 3, 2, 1.
Awesome.
Did we get it?
Cool. Thank you.
We got
it. Okay. Mia says, I cannot. Hair is not done. Mia, we accept you with your hair not done. I'm sure like a lot of us don't have our hair done. And your hair in all its natural forms is beautiful. So just saying that as well. No texturism in this space whatsoever. We're going to go into breakout rooms, y'all. We're going to talk about this in smaller groups and continue to unpack the conversation. So Kat is going to put us into breakout rooms and I'll see you on the other side.
I'm going to remind everyone again to take a breath. I have needed to breathe. I started holding my breath at some point during this conversation. So I'm just going to breathe loudly off mute to like remind everyone to like breathe, like, whew, this conversation really hit for me. I don't even know why, but it's just, it brought up a lot that I've like been thinking about in my brain. And I just need to like breathe it out. Okay.
Thank you, Mia. Yeah, so folks, we're back. Thank you for the conversations. Thank you for the breakout rooms and your presence and your heart and your community. And so we are starting our whiteboard, as you can see, and instructions are in the chat, but I will read them again because this is actually a really fun part of our meetup. It's at the top of your screen because we can all do whiteboard together. Up to 10 people can annotate at the same time. So I'll talk you through it. You go to the middle of your screen and you push the share screen, and then actually you go to view options at the top of your screen, and then it'll allow you to annotate. You click the annotate button, and then you can kind of start playing around. If you click on annotate, you can see the text, you can draw, you can use stamps, you can kind of participate in this learning. So what we're doing in the whiteboard section is we're actually just collecting moments of learning from this meetup. Words, questions, phrases, quotes that have stuck with you, that have moved you. If you feel a little bit unsure about this annotation situation, or there's not the 10 slots already taken up, you can post them in the chat or you can say them out loud and one of our team members will write it down for you. But that's kind of what we're doing right now. So this is just a moment of collective reflection, honestly.
Yeah, so in the whiteboard, just to hop off what Lily's saying, like feel free to just shout out names and things that you've talked about in the chat. So like you could take, you could write, we talked about something or this, or just a word that you heard or a phrase that you heard or something that's sticking with you. So let's get
Thank you, Green Sprout, for your, yes, perfect, for your resource. We will be making a post also in a series of stories where we're sharing the resources. We're going to put our Facebook group in the chat later where we share these resources as well. How can all communities of color work together? Yes.
I was trying to finish that one, but then it stopped me from finishing the sentence. But I was going to say fight white supremacy, but now I can't edit it. So.
Okay, maybe one of us can. Thanks, Kirsha.
Thanks.
Well, I don't also know where
to edit it.
I'm trying to like get my thinking about. I just had the same situation happen as Kirsha.
At one box, yes. Solidarity. I loved what we said earlier. We are not a monolith. We are a mosaic. That was beautiful. Another one that I loved was stop ESEA, learning about a new word that was new for me too. What were some of the gems, without necessarily sharing people's private information, but what were some of the gems that came up in your breakout rooms? Is there anything that anyone said that you feel like wants to be highlighted here on our whiteboard? Toss out the melting pot, yes. Immigration dilemma was another one that I really liked.
We were talking about, and this really hit home for me, like being afraid to have a disagreement with someone who identifies as the same thing as me and or saying the wrong thing, but specifically about my community, and then having someone else in my community fight me on it, which I have felt personally as someone the other day told me that I couldn't identify as mixed race. So that was crazy. But yeah, it's just thinking about cancel culture, thinking about how kind of toxic it is sometimes, just because I have really benefited from, and this is going to sound not the best, but it's like, I'm ignorant. I've had ingrained racism. I think we all do to some extent. I have said ignorant things in my life. I grew up with a lot of crazy, not the best influences around me. And it's like, I really needed my friends to call me out on my stuff, and I really needed to learn from that. And sometimes it's just not me thinking, and sometimes it's genuinely me not knowing what I'm saying. And the ability to have my friends call me out and say, Ariel, what do you mean by what you just said? Let's think about that. I've gone home and I've unpacked that, and I've been like, what did I mean when I said that thing? Or like, what did I mean when that thought came into my head? And because I feel like, and we talked about this in my group, there's this sense of, let's just make sure we say the right thing all the time. And like, let's just no microaggressions, not know this, know that. It sort of has created like this sense of, well, we can't even make a mistake to learn from the mistake. So I just feel like there's more people now that are repressing semi-racist ideologies and or ignorance down instead of sharing it and getting educated. It's just bubbling underneath the surface, continuing to fester, continuing to grow without being corrected or fixed. And that was something that really, really stuck out to me as someone who is afraid to be canceled. I don't want to be canceled. That doesn't seem fun. I went to a really, 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 really liberal college, and I have trauma from that. Like that was crazy. And so it just resonated with me.
At this point, if you have your phone by you, I just posted in the story of the mixed space our like learning moment where you can put your name, you can put, how you identify, which could be even like college student or skateboarder, it could be any form of identify. And then like one thing you learned as we're all here collectively learning together. This is like my personal dream to be able to, when you, and then you tag the mixed space and you share it to your story. So just take a screenshot of the story and then upload it to your story filled out, and then we can share everyone's learning and keep an archive of that and just continue to amplify the learning that's happening collectively. Because everything that we've shared here together, when we share it with other people over social media or personally, it just continues to spread the message and continues to create space for this conversation. So that's my little call to action.
And while you guys are on your phone, also drop your Insta. Thank you. Taylor's already starting to do that. We are not quite done yet having a cool conversation, but just want everyone to know that we would love to follow you and just get your personal Instagrams and any organizations that you rep. Let's drop those too. Any other resources that you feel like could be awesome right now, drop that as well. Yeah, what an amazing conversation.
I'm just going to take a moment too to plug that the mixed space is accepting donations. We match the donations that come in from all of you community members, and we will be donating it to Mixed Asian Media Fest in order to help support the diverse intersectional conversations that are happening not only this month, but also for the fest in September. So anything that comes into the mixed space on our PayPal will be matched and given to that organization. So if you appreciated the work that happened today, please donate whatever you feel that you can spare. And I want to, just give a moment to say thank you, to acknowledge, oh my goodness. And then to also say that our Meetup 2.0 is happening with Sam. I think we said that earlier. Ariel, take it from here.
Sam, so everyone saw the amazing cameo, right? So Sam is coming back to talk with us on IG Live Tuesday, the 18th of May from 8 to 9 p.m. Eastern. So make sure you have that in your calendars. It's going to be a really fun conversation. We're talking about Hapa. We're talking about what that means. We're talking about MAM and Hapa Mag and all that good stuff. So feel free to jot that down on your calendar. Shout out to Sam once again for that amazing cameo. Thank you. That was awesome. Look at that. That's Sam. We're going to have a conversation. So you guys should definitely check it out for sure. Also, if anyone is ever interested in having conversations with us in the future, please feel free to reach out to us on social media. We welcome the opportunity to have these conversations. I can go live with anyone any day of the week. So please drop all that info in the chat.
And then lastly, we are changing our meetup time and day to Tuesdays. We are going to see what that's like to be with y'all on Zoom on Tuesdays instead of on Saturdays. So our next meetup is going to be on Tuesday, June 8th. And it's going to be about Juneteenth. It's going to be a kiki. It's going to be a barbecue. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be art and festival and parties and history and education, all about Juneteenth, why it needs to be a national holiday, like what everybody needs to know. So make yourselves available for that Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on June 8th. Obviously, you guys will be seeing a bunch of info coming up on social about that. And fill out our feedback form about what you thought about this event. Any feedback and input you have, link to that will be posted in the chat as well. And link to the Facebook group will be posted in the chat. And at this point, after all of y'all have all the links and you're part of the Facebook group to get more info, we can take ourselves off mute and say goodbye.
Shouting out the people who've already posted that on Instagram. You guys are amazing. Taylor, looking at you. Thank you. We love our community. We love you guys so much. And remember to breathe, please. These conversations take so much out of you. Trust us. We know we've done this for over a year. Take a walk in nature or a walk around your apartment, whatever suits you. COVID is still a thing. Please take care of yourself. Drink water, have good food, all the above.
Michelle, I know you're working, but I want to know about your cakes and where we can eat your cakes. And if there's anything you want to post in the chat about those, like, let us know how we can support you. Yeah, I know. Mia says
people have been drooling.
Like, yeah. I just want to say hi to you, Erin. I saw you joined us a little bit later, but I'm so glad you're here. I'm so glad to see you again. And Natasha, like, I've been, DMing you, so I'm so glad to see your face here too. And thanks y'all for staying for the full time and really being a part of this community. We're actually just going to leave this space open. So our meetup, like, officially is over, but we're just going to stay and keep hanging out for anyone who wants to keep hanging out with us. No pressure, but if y'all just want to, be together and keep chatting and share about maybe other things that you're working on, other ways that you identify other than, your mixedness, your ethnicity. There's other ways to be mixed. We were just talking about, religion, ability, class, artistic background, possibly. There's so many different layers of our identity that all create the full humans that we are. So bye, Kirsha. Thanks, everyone. See you next month. Yes. Thank you so much. Bye.